This is an Epson TM885. To verify you have the correct model, you can lift it on the right hand side. You can actually see right here, it says TM885 or V here. So to start off, let's make sure we have the correct cables here. We want to use the power brick that came with the unit here. And on the power brick, it will clearly say an Epson printer here. And the connection type is this circular plug. That's a technical name that I won't get into. Be very careful to not plug in another power cable for that. For example, this NCR block here for the actual point of sale system. It has a very similar power type. So compared to these two here, they both are the circular plugs. So please don't mix these two up, and that goes along with any other receipt printer power cables as well. Let's set these aside here. And the other cables that we'll be needing is the actual cash drawer cable if you're using it printer to receipt printer to cash drawer. It'll come with this cable here, which is a directional cable. So one end will be listed to terminal printer, while the other we listed to cash drawer. And the last cable is normally we hook these units up via USB cable, so just a generic USB A to B. So one end, the important part, this part plugging into the printer, be that side, and this end would be into the computer. I'm just going to flip this around and start with the USB end here. This simply plugs into the far right port here. Click right into there. And then the cash drawer cable here, again, we want to make sure this is plugged into the right end here. So one end was a 2-terminal printer. Plug that in there like so. And then click. And then the power cable, which again, we want to make sure that we grab the Epson power cable here. And plug that in so, like that. And these are your primary cables I'll be plugging into the receipt printer, the TM88V. So very quickly, just some quick troubleshooting steps. First of all, where is the power button here? It is on the front of this Epson printer, and this little flip it to the right. Power's on the printer. It's spat out a little page for me. Take that aside for a second. So in normal operations, this green button here, it should always remain green. If there's any errors or papers, any of these buttons are lit up in orange, it means that the receipt printer has an issue. So we're going to power this off. Normally, after a couple of days of use, the receipt printer, it may air out on you. So one way to do that is, of course, power it off, power back on, and reload in counterpoint. Or what you do is hold on to the feed button here and power on the unit. Let it sit there for a second, and this page will spit out here saying, hey, this is your configuration. It gives you all this information here. This is what we call a hex dump, which will sort of refresh the memory here. So before we launch counterpoint again, we want to make sure, again, like I just stated, paper's blinking orange, and when we're doing this hold the feed button, power back on, this launches it into a little config mode. So we want to make sure that we restart this printer. So I'll turn that off and then turn it back on, and now the light should stay solid green. And there you go, a little page there again. So for our cash drawer, we have one of our generic, I believe this is an 18-inch cash drawer here. Normally, when we plug in the cash drawer, it'll be either on the very back, there'll be a little port along the side here, or if it's not there, it'll be under the cash drawer itself. So I'll lift the camera up here. And it is that port right there. So we'll plug again, make sure that this says to cash drawer here. These are directional cables again, plug in like so. And that is how you plug in the cash drawer to the receipt printer. Here are our 3 most commonly used Ingenico devices here. Here we have the IC250, which again is the most common one, is the oldest one that has been circulated. Here we have the second generation, not the IVP320, and the Lane 5000, the latest and greatest and newest model that they have here. So all 3, they are all powered exactly the same way. All of them has this sort of what we like to call the HDMI cable. So here, actually the IC250 has an HDMI cable plug there. Same deal with the IPP320. Again, exact same plug there, and then the Lane 5000, exact same cable. So the power cables and USB and HDMI cables, they all plug in exactly the same. So here's the actual cable that plugs into the unit. So I'll set these aside for a second here. This is the what I call the Y splitter cable. So this cable, one end plugs into the Ingenico device. So for now, use IC250, plugs in like so. What you're gonna notice there, actually flip that back. There's actually little 2 screw ports where you can screw in screwdrivers so this cable doesn't become undone. And on this end is where it sort of gets a little tricky. It sort of splits off into a Y. One end, the USB, plugs into your computer, and the other will plug into the power, and the power cable looks like so. Nothing too special about it. Plugs into the wall. This end plugs into the little power adapter port here. So, plugs in like so. And here we have our Ingenico setup on how to plug in the cable. Again, HDMI cable plugs into the back of the Ingenico, splits off into a Y here. Computer, the power cable plugs into the wall. So quick troubleshooting steps there for the Ingenico device. If for whatsoever the unit's not working, responding in counterpoint, what you can do is, of course, log out of counterpoint all the way and do a manual reset here on the unit. Of course, you can plug this power cable, but that's not recommended. It could trigger some sensors in the device here saying, hey, somebody's trying to break into the unit. So it might encrypt itself and throw out the famous unauthorized and alert eruption error. So another way to restart the unit is there's this minus button and the clear button. If you hold on those 2 buttons for about 3 seconds, the unit will reboot. And again, this is on the model IC250, so I'm going to hold those 2 buttons down. And there you go. 2-3 seconds later, the unit reboots, does a little beep, and go through that process. So the exact same button combination for the other 2 units here, but they'll use different buttons here. Instead of clear and minus, as you can see in the IC250 and Lane 5000, there is no minus button. So the buttons that you'll press for the combination is actually this yellow button and here, and then this other button on the right hand side, the period, comma, pound, star. Hold those 2 buttons, that'll restart the unit. Same exact thing with the Lane 5000 here, the yellow button, and this funny function button here. So those 2 buttons there as well. This is our XR5 model, the most commonly used point-of-sale systems for counterpoint. So go over very quickly how to access the ports in the bottom. So you sort of want to tilt the screen back like that. Under here is a little slit where we can put your hands in and just sort of push with your thumbs up here and then pull down your fingers. Should pop right open. So just very quickly go over the connection type. So here is our actual power button. Turn on the point of sales here itself. We have a power. Ethernet will be labeled on the LAN, and our 12 and 24 volts. On the very top here, if I cover this button, this top portion there, that's actually a USB port that you can plug in mouse, keyboard, and other devices, etc. Let me sort of tilt the screen here. Then you have our 2 USB cables here, and under here is our serial ports where you can plug in cache storage and other legacy devices. So you may have noticed already that there's this thicker cable here that's plugged into one of these cyan blue ports here. This cable controls these serial ports here. So if you have one of these units, don't remove it, leave it at the port that's plugged in. So let me go ahead and sort of cover this up again here and how to access route cables here. So to make things look a little bit neater, what you want to do is there's this little opening here where you can sort of fit your little fingers in, and if you just pull towards you down, it'll pop right open and snap, and this comes right out. And then use this little thumb screw here, which should be able just to undo here. Doors swing right open. So for example here, I have the NCR power block here with me. I will just sort of slip this through here, and you can sort of see the cable on the bottom here. There's a cut opening for that. Route that through, and like so. And that's how you route cables through, and of course lock the door and then plug in to each one of these little ports. A little thing I should point out is you want to actually route the cables through this cut opening here, so when the door closes, all the cables will stay in. So I'll show you here. Plug that in and then lock the door. And we'll go ahead and screw this in here for a full demonstration here. So cables are routed through there. That is good. I'm going to cover this loader door. And now you have your cables neatly